It's essentially a photo journal. I spent 8 days traveling Europe with Nirvana, Tad, and Mudhoney, three of the best live bands that Seattle had at the time. Our brilliant idea was to bring them over to London and blow away the British press and help ignite the Seattle scene as an international phenomenon. And I think the strategy worked. I took a lot of photos, and this coffee table book has a lot of beautiful images that narrate that story. The bands were extremely well received. When you see the photos of this Lamefest show, you've got the British audience flying off the stage, crowd surfing, stage diving. And you have to remember, at that time, the predominant style in England was these shoegazing bands. So being physically expressive wasn't really in the British DNA at that time.
Shoegazing, like that whole Oxford thing, My Bloody Valentine and whatnot?
There you go. So rocking out and jumping off of PA stacks was not the style.
Was frowned upon.
And I do believe that this Lamefest Sub Pop showcase in London, December 3rd, 1989, really was the tipping point as far as Seattle legitimately becoming an international phenomenon.
Let's go back to early Seattle. Your early, obviously Hendrix was huge, but he had to go to England to become famous. Was that part of the inspiration?
Actually, it was.
Okay.
It was. It's a classic strategy. If you can rock London, you can, at least at that period of time, pre-internet, you can gain the attention of the mainstream media in the U.S., and was definitely influenced by what Hendrix did.
You decide to take all these bands to England, but wasn't Mudhoney the biggest one at the time?
Mudhoney was definitively the headliner, and they had previously toured the UK with Sonic Youth. Superfuzz Big Muff was on the indie charts in the UK, which again was very rare for an American record to get on the UK indie charts.
Sure.
So they were making waves. Mudhoney was the headliner. I remember when we showed up at the 2,000-seat Astoria in London, looked up at the marquee, Nirvana's name wasn't on there, or Taz. It was just a Mudhoney show. All three bands did great, and I think Nirvana, the opener, really surprised people. After zigzagging Europe for almost 6 weeks, they had really fine-tuned their set. Kurt had some new tracks. Polly was one that he had written on the road in Europe, which was absolutely amazing track. Next summer, I'm releasing a second book, which is a compilation of the early Sub Pop fanzines and the early Sub Pop music columns. Spans the years 80 to 88.
Oh, how cool is that?
I'm pretty stoked. It's got thousands of reviews of indie records, and I think once it's done, it's going to serve as an amazing index of underground music from the 80s. Calvin Johnson's writing a special essay. Charles Peterson's throwing in some photos. So I think it's going to be a cool book. Bazillion Points is going to release that as well.
If I pick up my smartphone and order one from Amazon, will it be delivered to my door by a drone?
Strange question and vaguely humorous. It's I have read about the drone delivery system they're anticipating, and it's a strange world we live in. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, well, I hope that doesn't work out, because some of us here in radio may end up as UPS drivers and we'll need jobs.